Good morning. I'm back at the Access Center. Wouldn't you know? Hasn't even been 5 weeks and we're back. Um, I guess all of you healthcare providers that are created equal will say it's my fault I'm here. I just posted a video telling you how I had those two needles pulled at one time and I don't do that. Well, here we are. Here we are, back in the good old Access Center. Nightmare. So, I've successfully had an additional stent placed the last time I was here. Now we're back today to see what could possibly be wrong. Oh, you don't have to open it. I'll do it. No, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Okay, I'll see ya. I don't even know what to say. And I challenge each of you that have all the negativity to say, that have all the no, you had to, of no, there's no way. There's no such thing as a false narrative. They document, they this, that, and the other. And I'm telling you, these things were not true. And you don't believe. So there's no convincing. Yeah, there still will be a story time. Some of you are intelligent enough to know why there hasn't been a story time. Others, no, she's not saying. She's not saying. Got it. Got it. But what I would like you to do is to tell me, what can I do to protect my access? When I have a tech that says, I don't like your access, you need to get another one. You don't like my lifeline and I should get another lifeline. So I guess there's healthcare providers, you equally created one that like to see people carved up in all parts of their bodies because you just didn't like that access. She literally says this like it's no problem, like it's a joke. And you don't like it because of what? Because of your skill set? And if I said lack of skill set, then I would be the abusive patient and this, that, and the other, and the third. But you're not all created equal. As much as you want to say we all absorb this, we all absorb that. What do the patients absorb? Your patients that aren't abusing you at all. I literally just did something for the staff that I wish I could do every time I come, and I try to do most of the times that I come. Same thing I did for the people at the dialysis center I was at. And it would be nice to strap you all to a lie detector test and see what you pass and fail. But at the end of the day, we're not all abusive. And I don't think it's abusive because I'm trying to protect my lifeline. And I've asked you not to do something and you do it anyway. Or, better yet, how about you did something that the books tell you don't do for good reason. And you did it on Saturday, and here I am at the Access Center I was supposed to come yesterday. But that was another issue with all you created equal healthcare providers. That, when you say you're going to do something and you just don't, and you don't for several reasons, and I'm not going to lay out that scenario, but you said you were going to do something. You knew of an issue. You said you were going to do something. You didn't do it. I'm the type of patient that will follow up. And some people in this process not only respect that, but they assist that. They aid that. There are people that try to make sure that I am okay because they know that I've done nothing wrong. And when you get into my arm and you see, those aren't things that I could have done. So that's the thing for all you dialysis patients that may watch this. When you go to the Access Center, they know what's true and what's not. So hopefully you're at a center where you can have that relief and they can provide you with that relief. And that's called a report of what you possibly couldn't do to your access, I don't know anybody that would try to intentionally do something harmful to their access when basically that means you're doing something to your life. You're trying to, that doesn't even make sense. And I'm not even addressing those people. I'm just talking about the ones that, you proclaim that you do your job and you're equally created and you're abused and patients do this and all the abuse and all the abuse. Well, what about the patients that aren't abusing you, that you're abusing, that are just coming, offering you their lifeline because they say you're qualified to do such? And then we're told at places like this, if you don't like the way they look and smell, don't you stick your arm out there, or don't you protect your access at all cost, is what we're told, literally. And I've been told some pretty interesting ways of protecting my lifeline. I've opted not to, but I just opt to say no thank you. Attitude is number one. You guys want to talk about attitudes with patients, attitudes with you all, equally created healthcare providers. That's a no thank you, I'll wait. And this whole concept of you just have to be appreciative, they're there to save your lives. There is a form of appreciation for me. I'm not speaking for everybody else, I'm speaking for myself with the interaction with me. But what I'm not appreciative of is dismissive behavior, just arrogancy and just attitude, period, good or bad. You don't want it from me, so why is it okay for you to have it? And then when we want to talk about disruptive behavior, I guess that doesn't go both ways either. And the minute there is a verbal exchange, the first thing you want to say is, don't be disruptive. Well, how is that disruptive if you're just having a verbal exchange and now all of a sudden, the patient is disruptive? Well, no, I think it's about high time that we start reminding you all, don't be disruptive. Because actually you're stopping the workflow, and on some of the things that you all do is disruptive. So, and no one ever wants to talk about that either. Since we want to talk about documentation, what is documented is how many times I've had to come here and what was and was not the problem. That's documented. Nobody ever wants to talk about mystics either. I've asked that question multiple times and none of you have chimed in on that. But you will chime in and say, she hasn't said what was wrong. And I have. I've absolutely said what the problem was. You just don't want to believe it, which is okay as well. But why don't you chime in on the actual questions that I'm asking you guys if you're so qualified and you're not just TikTok nurses and TikTok doctors? If you are healthcare providers, chime in. Chime in on the good and the bad, or however you want to see it. The indifferent. Chime in. I'm asking legitimate questions. What happens when you get all these mystics? What happens when you do things that your policy said you shouldn't do? And we aren't in war, so it wasn't like, we had to just triage real quick and just get you in and out. Never mind the fact that the nurse looked absolutely exhausted. Never mind that. That was concerning. So, yeah, you did that so you could just get me up out of there. But never mind that I've tried for years to protect this. Never mind, I don't do that. I do not. I was warned. My intake was awesome. That is why I am the way I am, because of the intake I received when I started this. And one of the warnings I was given was, you hold your site one needle at a time. You do not hold two. Now, you healthcare providers want to chime in on why it's not good to hold two? And then never mind the type of access you have, that some have a tendency to clot more than others. So you really need to follow procedures. I don't care how long it takes. I'll hold mine. I'm not a big bleeder. So nope. If you take it out like you're supposed to and, yank it out and you apply the pressure like you're supposed to, the direct pressure, the amount of pressure you're supposed to apply, we are good. I don't bleed. You take it out haphazardly, you barely hold the site, I promise you it's going to bleed. And 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to say anything because that's going to make you disruptive. If I say, oh, you're not holding it tight enough, I just let you have to go ahead and do that work over, because some arguments it's not worth it. And the good thing about it is, in center, you have on a glove and you can just go ahead and just do it yourself, right? But when you're at the mercy of the equally created hospital workers, that's not the case. So I ask legitimate questions, and the same way you want a legitimate answer, Give me a legitimate answer. And stop telling me about how abused you all are. Because what's the statistic for every abused healthcare worker? How many patients are abused? And I am not defending patients that are disruptive and abusive. I'm not at all. I'm not defending that. I don't know of such. So I'm only speaking on the situation that is mine and that I know of. Okay, and I don't just mean hearsay. I mean part of, witness with my own eyes, and more times than likely, it's I'm actually talking about my situation. I don't even feel like commenting on others. I mean, it's really up to them, right? And yes, I'm gonna take these headphones off and the rest of the stuff in just a moment. But for the time being, I'm just, it just baffles me that I'm here a week later. The doctor goes, "Oh, you missed us." And I was like, not really. I really do love this practice. Like, honestly, gold star. There are a few practices that I actually belong to that are just bomb and would never be able to collaborate anything. I'm spending much the same amount of time here that I'm spending over there as well. So that's also kind of interesting. But, I don't see how you guys don't see that as a problem. You just see it as we make mistakes, right? Well, y'all mistakes cause lives. They cause the quality of life to diminish for us. But that truth is supposed to be curdled with, be thankful they're there to help you. And then I also remind them that they're on somebody's payroll to do so. So follow the rules and the protocols that are set forth. And then maybe some of us would have a better quality of life, for sure. It's when you don't that we don't. No one cares that my whole, non-dialysis day was wasted. No one cares about that. That's never a thing. And I say that and my heart jumps because that's not necessarily true as well. There are those of you who do care. There are those of you who don't like this and who aren't about this and understand that there are certain practices that do take place that shouldn't. And I thank you. I thank you for that. And I thank anyone that's listening to this or that, that listens or sees this video or that shares this video, just based on the fact that you denounce these types of behaviors and you do follow the books as much as you can. There have been a few people that have commented and I can literally feel their being when they say, these are things that shouldn't happen. Unfortunately, they do. And it's that honesty. You don't have to like what someone says, but if they're being honest, then I think that we could have a fluent conversation. The thing about liars is that when you lie to people, you take away choices. People base their decisions off of what you say. So if you tell me one thing that is not true, and I make a decision based off of that, I did it off of your mistruth. That's why telling the truth is imperative. And especially as when healthcare is part of the factor. Because a lot of us do want to make good decisions. But when you hide behind your truth, and your truth is that you're making mistakes, you're doing things you know you shouldn't do for the sake of time, then that makes it kind of difficult for those of us that suffer at your hand. But some of you won't see that as being true because you're equally created healthcare workers and you saved the day. And that person just had to be disruptive. I must have moved. I must have done something. When in actuality, none of that is true. When in actuality, accountability is not something that's frequent in this field either. When's the last time you actually apologized for something you knew you did wrong? hopefully this has been food for thought, because what shouldn't happen is what's happening now. For me, it shouldn't. It just shouldn't. But because you can hide behind the abuse of power and false narratives, and even all of you guys have said, no, there's just no way that can happen. There's this step, there's there's this person, there's that network, there's this, all of that. They have to agree. They have to know. Find yourself in a false narrative and watch and see what doesn't happen and what does. Go talk to the 1,000+ people a year that are blacklisted because they advocate for themselves and because they report. And the sentence is, public execution. See how well you survive this. So, and for those of you that may be watching that are blacklisted, understand that God is working on our behalf, and it will come to an end. And it's going to come to an end sooner than what we can believe or even see or know. But it won't continue to be like this. It will not be easy to blacklist people. You will need to actually follow the rules, or the rules will reverse themselves, and the consequences will be on those that abuse the stroke of a pen and abuse the narrative. So just know that God has it all in control. Continue to be you. Continue to advocate. Continue to report. Don't let it stop who you were. Don't be you. Because being you protects you. And now, for those of you that don't understand this and need this disclaimer, this doesn't mean be abusive or disruptive or any of the words that they will use against you, even when you're not. So if you are, I don't know what advice to give you. I have no advice to give someone that is disruptive and abusive. I mean, what do you expect if you are disruptive and you are abusive? By definition, or however, I would definitely say, try and work that out the best way that you can. Because there's those of us that are not, and we're labeled like you. So.
Nurse call, Park 1. Nurse call, Park 1.
I guess y'all want me to beep that out. Guess you can't say nurse or call or park or one. It's just funny to me, some of the ignorance that gets left. And I would say this. I just hope that none of you watching this or sharing it or however, that you ever find yourself in a situation where a false narrative is being told, or where you have to speak up, and speaking up costs you your life or your quality of life. For some of you, that's probably what's going to happen at some point, since we don't know what will and will not happen. But I just hope that there's some grace and some forgiveness should you decide to tell your story. And I hope that for those of you that find it funny that someone used to say, all of my life I heard this, to be honest, laughing catches. Figure that out yourself if you don't understand what that means, but it's pretty straightforward. There's nothing underlying. It's just laughing catches. So be careful what you laugh at, because it catches. And for those who say that, you don't feel sorry, I've never asked you to. And I don't think many of us want us to. We don't need you to feel sorry, because I can promise you, I've probably heard, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, hundreds of thousands of times already. I never asked for that. It's not what I've asked for. You could ask me what I would like, and I can tell you that. That's what many of you have not asked, at least openly in the comments, maybe in the inbox, but not openly in the comments. So, but I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm not asking for empathy. It's a little late for that, because you equally created providers. That's what y'all have, right? You're empathetic, sympathetic, respectful, compassionate, all those things, right? All the things you can't teach, you guys are, but you equally created. And I guess us patients are none of that. And the last thing that any of us are respectful. And for some reason, a 10-second TikTok says, oh my God, has disrespect written all over it. I don't know. It's kind of strange. But again, I think I'm done. I didn't realize it in 20 minutes. I'm done. So take care. Have a blessed day.